Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Rock Sports Showdown. I'm your host Ryan Noblet, and alongside me are our insightful analysts, Cameron Collins, Kenny Moore, and Big Dave Miller. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Slippery Rock football is now 2-0 after defeating Shippensburg 58-38 on Friday. Nigel Barksdale threw for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Rock's defense has, however, given up 30-plus points in their first 2 games of the season. What are your thoughts on the Rock so far? Dave?
They've put up an offensive clinic. They've had 109 points so far, averaging about 54.5 points a game. So their offense is good so far. When you put up at least 7 touchdowns, maybe 8 sometimes, you're not going to lose. However, that defense can creep up to you if you're not playing as well as defense. They had a 44-10 lead at halftime, and then they come back and Shippensburg gets the ball, they score a touchdown. On the next kickoff, there was a fumble at the 35-yard line. Shippensburg recovered, touchdown. Within 5 minutes, it's 44-24. Slippery Rock went 3 and out. Shippensburg came back, touchdown. Again, halfway through, 44-31, and you're starting to get a little nervous now. But Slippery Rock did a fantastic job in the first half, shutting down the Division II Player of the Year, Zach Zoli. Threw for 4,700-plus yards last year with 54 touchdowns. And for Shippensburg to not get their first points of the season until the second quarter of their second game showed Slippery Rock, their defense is still shaky, but they held a Player of the Year to under 300 yards, which I think is impressive within its own words.
Kenny, your thoughts?
Yes, I believe that the Slippery Rock football team did an amazing job starting the game off with a 61-yard run from Shamar Green, and from then on just hitting straight out of the gates, just having such a great start to the season. Not only that, but 2 consecutive great games with big plays. It shows that they have great big play ability. Nigel Barksdale actually, has been playing phenomenal. He's set another school record with 769 yards over the course of the first 2 games. School record there as well, and I'm interested to see if they can continue to, if Ken Amos and Nigel Barksdale can continue to hook up the way they have been. I've been really impressed with the way they've hooked up. 2 70-plus yard plays in the first 2 games. I'm not sure if that's ever been done here, 2 straight games, but I'm interested to see because they kind of have this Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick type of thing going on there, and it's something worthwhile, worth your attention. So if for Game 3, I would definitely pay attention to Ken Amos and Nigel Barksdale's ability to hook up, and hopefully they get another long connection.
Slippery Rock's play has been really good so far. Like we've seen both games so far, they've put up 50-plus points. But I really think that defense needs to come around because when you get later in the season, right now they're purely relying on high offense, high-scoring offense. If their offense has an off game, and they only put up 28, 30 points, they're going to risk a loss. So I mean, their offense has played great so far. I believe they had over 200 yards rushing. Barksdale had 305 yards passing, over 500 yards of total offense. They had a block punt for a touchdown. Special teams producing points. So I mean, they're playing well, but I definitely think that defense really needs to bear down and work a little bit better. And I think one of the things they did really well is limiting turnovers. Barksdale didn't throw any interceptions. So I mean, that's kind of where, even though the defense isn't playing as well, they're not turning the ball over to give the other team extra opportunities.
So overall, I think Slippery Rock is going to be fighting in contention for the PSAC championship berth. I think they're going to come up a little bit short if they don't do anything to this defense, but this offense has some major wrecking power. That redshirt freshman, Shamar Green. They have about a continuous cycle of 5 running backs. Shamar Green had over 100 yards in the first half. Barksdale had about 230 with 2 touchdowns in the first half, and 2 more to Shodman in the third quarter and the fourth quarter to really seal the deal. This offense has so much to work with, so I really think Slippery Rock can make a run for it at the end.
I feel like the defense does need to clamp down a little more in the second half. I believe in the first half they come out strong, ready, and they clamp down from the start. halftime of the game this past weekend, I believe the score was 44-10. Or like, I mean, the defense is just, that's great defense. I don't know if, what you guys' standards are for defense. I know 2 years ago they had, used to hold teams under 10 points a game, so I can understand that being the standard. But personally, I think just if they could just clamp down a little bit more in the second half and not lose focus, I think that then they definitely, be able to win the PSAC. Not just, come up short to IUP or come up short to another team in the PSAC. But I really believe that with that defense and that high-octane offense, Slippery Rock can do damage this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree I definitely think Slippery Rock's going to compete for the PSAC. I think they can hang with anybody in this conference. Like you said before, they just took down one of the better teams in our conference, one of the best players in Division II in Zach Zulli. So, all around they're playing well. But I just think when it comes later on, when they get in that, maybe that PSAC championship game or even further on, they're going to have to tighten that defense down a little bit. And I know they received some national rankings, so they might get up there, and then they're going to start to get a little bit of a target on their back. Teams are going to look into their weaknesses a little bit more and look at what they do well and what they don't do well, and teams are going to look to exploit that a little bit. So I think they need to just work on that defense a little bit, get a little more well-rounded, not rely so much on the offense. But I think they'll be all right for the rest of this year.
All right, good insight on our first topic. On Saturday evening, during the closing seconds of the Wisconsin versus Arizona State game, Wisconsin, down 2 points and in field goal range, took a knee to position themselves for the game-winning field goal. The referees, however, botched placing the ball and time expired before Wisconsin could attempt a field goal. What do you guys make of this incident? Kenny?
I believe that the refs need to do a much better job. Completely, just do a better job. I'm not, certain exactly, on the ins and outs of what actually happened per se, but this has happened before, where refs have botched things or made mistakes or made bad calls. They're human. I don't know, as fans you can get mad at them and curse them and say all that, but as people watching the game, that aren't really biased of what's going on, they're human. They're liable to make mistakes. So pretty much my thoughts for.
Yeah, I watched the ending of this game go down, and this game was all on the refs. Wisconsin had about 18 seconds left with no timeouts. They were just trying to move the ball over to the middle of the field to get their field goal kicker a straight-on kick, and quarterback set the ball down on the ground, downed it, and Arizona State kind of jumped on it thinking it was a fumble. The clock kept ticking, refs kind of working it out, telling Wisconsin to hold on, and time just ran out. But my problem with it is they just take off. They didn't give an explanation. They don't say what happened. And these are Pac-12 refs. And I think that's kind of part of the problem you have in college football is when you have teams from different conferences playing each other. You have a Big Ten team playing a Pac-12 team, and Pac-12 refs, and something like that happens, and the Pac-12 team wins. It starts to create some speculation as to whether maybe it wasn't an accident. And I think that's kind of where you run into problems where you have a crew of refs all from one conference reffing a game of a team from their conference. So, this game was totally botched by the referees. Wisconsin should have at least had an opportunity to try and kick a game-winning field goal. But, it's definitely up to these refs to at least come out and give an explanation of what happened and definitely try and do a better job for future games.
See, what I saw from this, how it happened, I think the refs did botch the call. But Wisconsin could have done a better job after the snap, take a knee in the middle of the field. Once your knee's down, the play is over. The defense knows it, the offense knows it, the ref knows it, that play's down. The way he just went down just to sit the ball down on the field made it seem like if you're a defensive player, you see a ball on the field and there's no whistle, your instinct is to jump on it. So, kudos to the ref, for trying to get it, even though it didn't look like it was much of an effort. But Wisconsin, I think the quarterback for Wisconsin did botch it himself as well. Not going down on his own, just sitting the ball down. It looks like a fumble, but if you're a defensive player, like I already said, you're going to jump on it. And you're going to want to waste time because you know the clock's running. You're going to try to cheat the system a little bit. The rest, you should have tried to stop play. But with what was going on, they thought, this was legal, what they did, and they tried to set it up. and that was all good. I think Wisconsin just put themselves in a bad situation, and that ended up getting them a loss, which is unfortunate. So I can't really put too much blame on the refs here, even though they are from a Pac-12. There might be some bias, even though I don't think there was. So you got to just make the right plays rather than blame it on the refs.
Well, can you blame the refs? You know, should he have, you know, need the ball down, or, you know, so the clock would have stopped? I mean, you can't. There's a lot of speculation. You know, there's a lot of times where, you know, there's scandals. Was there a scandal? You know, you have to look into certain things and see. But at the same time, you know, like, everything has for a reason. You know, like, for him to put the ball down like that, like Dave said, you know, I got to agree with you. As a defensive player, you know, you're taught to dive on the ball in any sport, basketball, football. If the ball's on the ground, you dive on it in order to gain possession of it. So, I mean, and there's times where there were referee scandals, you know, like in NBA, where there was a scandal with the Sacramento Kings and the Lakers in 2001, that series in the Western Conference Finals, where they pretty much botched every call for the Lakers, you know, so the Sacramento Kings never got their shot at the NBA title. So, I mean, it happens, you know, where refs make the wrong call, some on purpose, some to win, you know, money in Vegas. And, I mean, it happens. So I wouldn't put it past the refs, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily blame this game on the refs, because I feel like they could have done something different. The player could have done a better job of kneeing the ball down and stopping the clock.
I mean, my whole thing with it is more on, I mean, I don't really think the refs intentionally, you know, botched the call, messed up the game. I don't think so. But the problem, that's where you run into the problem when you have a Pac-12 crew of referees refereeing a Pac-12 team against a Big Ten team, and something like this happens where the Pac-12 team comes out on top. That's all you're going to hear is, oh, well, they may have done it on purpose, this and that. And that's why I think you could just kind of reassign the games better. Why not have a crew of Big East refs ref Pac-12 versus Big Ten? Send the Pac-12 teams to go ref SEC versus Big East. Then if there's, you know, a screwed up call, you really can't come in and question whether they were biased for one team or the other, because you're not refereeing a team from their conference. So you're not really going to have that speculation. And definitely Wisconsin the quarterback could have done a better job of actually, you know, laying his body down. He did kind of set the football down, and it was a smart thing to do by the Arizona State player. He kind of just laid on top of the ball, because the ref was standing there and didn't try and get the ball out from him. And the Arizona State player just laid on the ball and, you know, waited for the clock to run out. So, I mean, it was a smart play, but I mean, that's why we have the referees out there, you know. And that's, I mean, mistakes happen. Like he said, I mean, mistakes happen, but that's where, I mean, referees, they have to at least use it as a learning experience. I think they just do need to give somewhat of an explanation and learn from it for the next time, where if you're in a similar situation, take control. Take control of the game. If you have to stop the clock, if you have to, you know, blow your whistle, stop the play clock, get everything situated, that's what you have to do.
If these are neutral refs, we're not talking about if the refs blew it. We're talking about how Wisconsin blew it.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on. On Friday, golfer Jim Furyk became only the sixth player to shoot a 59 on a PGA Tour event en route to placing third at the BMW Championship. What are your thoughts on his performance, Cameron?
Great performance, great second round by Jim Furyk. Overall, not that great of a performance, because, like you heard, he still only finished third place. He shot 59, became only the sixth player to ever shoot 59 in a round. But he had such a bad first round that after shooting 59 in the second round, he was still only tied for first place and only ended up finishing third, which is still a great finish, still makes a bunch of money. But when you hear of a player having such a good round, you'd think, wow, they must have ran away with the tournament. And that's not what happened. So, I mean, great round, all-around tournament. He played well, but that shaky first round kind of ruined it for him, I think. Would have liked to have won it. He hasn't won a tournament in a while. So, I mean, it's a great accolade, great for him to accomplish that, but probably would like to have a better all-around tournament performance.
I mean, first place winner got that $8-digit $10 million for this first place finish. All eyes were on Tiger Woods for getting it to, like, finally get back on top. But no, Jim Furyk put up one hell of a round there, going minus 11 or minus 12, the second player to do it on a 71, and Stuart Appleby doing it on a 70, and the three others doing it on a 72. So in a way, not the best 59, but you can't really rank the 59s because if you looked at the highlights, you saw like it was cold, it was just windy all around, and he still hit 17 of 18 fairways. He was hitting like almost every green and had about 12 one-putt holes. So when you're putting that well, and he also had a bogey in this round as well. He put up some impressive numbers. He parred, I believe, 4 other holes, and the rest were birdie or eagle. It was just an amazing round to watch if you were watching that part of the golf.
Well, I mean, I agree with Dave and I agree with Kim as well. I believe, it's kind of like a testament to, people that are inconsistent. It's all about being consistent, and the people that are inconsistent, it shows, If he was a consistent golfer, we'd be putting him up there with the likes of Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson. I'm not so set on him being, one of the top golfers. I understand he might have had a good round, but hey, some of the best players in the world just make good shots. Robert Ory, he makes big shots at the end of the game. I'm never going to put him in the top discussion for the best player in the league. Is he one of the most is he one of the best closers? Or does he always make the best shots at the end of the games? Yes, I'll put him up there with Ray Allen and Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Yeah, I'll put him up there in that category. But in the category for the overall best player, I wouldn't put Jim Furyk up there with Tiger Woods or anyone like that. But I mean, he did have a great round. I must admit, he had a great round, scoring 59, being one of the only six people to ever do that. I think that's pretty impressive. But he needs to be more consistent.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, great accolade, and like Dave pointed out too, he had 12 birdies in the whole round, one being an eagle, and he bogeyed round. He's the only one out of those 6 to shoot that 59 with a bogey. Mm-hmm. So not only did he shoot a 59, he had to come back from shooting that bogey, which, I mean, that shows composure more than anything because, when you're riding high, you're hot, you're shooting great shots, your confidence is way up. And then you hit that slump. He hits that bogey, and, that could have broke him. That could have sent him downhill. But stayed composed, knew he still had a great round, kept making great shots, and shot a great round. So, I mean, like I said before, great round. He was trying to break out of. He hasn't won a tournament in a really long time. Trying to break that. Like Kenny said, has to be more consistent. Has to have a better all-around tournament. And like he said, sometimes, like we see in baseball with no-hitters and perfect games, just because someone throws a no-hitter or a perfect game doesn't make him one of the best of all time.
Yep.
Jim Furyk, he's a really good golfer. I'd probably put him in top 50 golfers of all time. But I mean, I wouldn't say he's one of the best. Just had a really great round.
It's like how many no-hitters did Brandon Johnson throw? Jim Furyk did something that Tiger Woods never done either, shoot a 59. Tiger Woods just was more consistent.
Exactly.
So congrats to Jim Furyk. Other than that, still had a great round, but I'm looking forward to see if he can just keep it up, if he can stay in the limelight.
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, do you have any more thoughts on that, Kenny?
Well, no, you're good. You're good.
All right. We'll be right back after this commercial break with your score update and more for Rock Sports Showdown. Welcome to the second half of Rock Sports Showdown. Our current standings on the points are Cameron with 14, who is currently our leader, Big Dave with 13, who is currently in second place, and Kenny with 10, who has a little bit of catching up to do. So we still have 3 more topics, so it's anybody's game. Through 2 weeks of NFL play, we've seen some impressive performances thus far. Who do you guys think is the best team in the NFL right now? Kenny?
Well, I have to go with the Denver Broncos. I mean, the Manning Bowl this weekend, the Giants and the Broncos. I mean, from the start, I knew the Broncos were going to just demolish them because, I mean, the Giants, they're too inconsistent. Like I said in the last topic, they're just inconsistencies. Eli Manning is a great quarterback, and he's won championships. I believe 2 of them he has. But, Eli Manning is too inconsistent for me as a fan of football. But Peyton Manning, the way he goes out every game, and you know what to expect from him. You can't really expect his stats because stats vary, but you expect greatness every time he steps on the field. Also, I want to look at the Seahawks and 49ers. I mean, the 49ers look like babies compared to the Seattle Seahawks, as they completely they were too strong. Just obviously the more ready team. In that game. Sherman as a safety, he's like 6'5". You know, he's like a Megatron on defense. You know what I mean? I believe he had 2 interceptions in the game. You know, Kyle Kaepernick was just playing catch with him out there. You know, and he's on the wrong team. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't. You know, Anquan Boldin got shut down, completely shut down. I didn't expect that. You know, especially after having 13 catches in the first game, 208 yards, to come out and play that bad against the rival. You know, it's like LeBron coming out and just like, you know, completely not playing well. You know, you don't expect that from Kyle Kaepernick or Anquan Boldin. That might have been Kyle Kaepernick's worst game as an NFL starter. And, you know, it's sad to say, but I mean, it was actually, you know, good to say for him because it's his first bad game ever, you know, but, you know, it's just something you didn't expect to happen. But, you know, I got to give it up to the Chargers this week, you know, beating the Eagles as well. I didn't see it happening, but they played a really good game, and they planned it out well, you know, had a good game plan. And the Eagles, I feel like they should have held the ball a little bit longer at the end there, or else I would put them up there in the top 5. But the Eagles fall down to probably number 6 this week because in my rankings, you know, my own personal rankings. But I got the Broncos, followed by the Seahawks, and then I'm going to go with I'll keep the 49ers up there. Even though they're 1-1 now, I'll keep them up there because the Patriots, they look kind of shaky. The wide receiving core wasn't there. But I believe the Broncos and Seahawks are definitely up there, top 2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Kenny, Broncos and Seahawks. I would definitely say the Seahawks are the best team in the NFL right now. A big difference. I mean, you know, Broncos have this high-flying, high-scoring offense. You know, Peyton Manning's throwing up such great numbers. But you also have to look at the teams they've played. You know, they played the Baltimore Ravens, who have had their team completely disheveled with trades and free agents leaving and injuries, and they're just a shell of the reigning Super Bowl champions. If you were to compare the two teams, they're not even one and the same. And then playing the New York Giants, who are starting terrible with loss against the Cowboys, loss against the Broncos now getting thrashed. But I think the big thing, the Seahawks, the number 1 team, like I completely agree with defense wins championships. Seahawks have held both their opponents so far to less than 10 points. I definitely think you don't have to have a high-flying Peyton Manning offense to win. I mean, Seahawks can hold teams to under 10 points. They held the San Francisco 49ers to 3 points. Team that was in the Super Bowl last year to 3 points. 5 turnovers, 3 picks, 2 fumbles, forced 4 turnovers on Colin Kaepernick alone. I mean, they had so much pressure on Colin Kaepernick all night, scored what they needed. So I definitely think the Seattle Seahawks are the best team in the NFL right now. Such a dominating defense. And that home field advantage, that 12th man out there in Seattle, teams have such a hard time playing in Seattle. I definitely think home field is a huge thing for the Seattle Seahawks.
Seattle's the best team in the NFL. They've given up 10 points so far this entire season. 10 points. 7 against the Panthers, 3 against the 49ers, who put up 34 last week against the Green Bay Packers. And that's another team I want to bring up, the Packers. They still put up 28 in a good fight against the Niners as well. They were one big deep pass away from 40 yards out to possibly Russell Wilson, the San Francisco 49ers, and to them being 2-0 and the Niners being 0-2. But, you know, so what happened is what happened. Niners are 1-1. I wouldn't say the Broncos are the best team. Peyton, it's just like slippery rock. Peyton, high-powered offense, 8 or 9 touchdowns on his own. Defense isn't showing up that much. They're giving up 20-plus points. The Seahawks, they didn't show up against the Panthers, but I think they regained their composure going up against San Francisco at home. I don't know if it was first week jitters or anything like that for Russell Wilson. He was about 1 of 9 in the first half, but this defense is ridiculous for the Seattle Seahawks. And you know, you look at the Steelers championships, it was mainly defense holding them while a supporting cast of an offense came around, scored as many points as they needed. The Seahawks have a definite chance to do this year. I wasn't going to say the Seahawks were going to have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl, but after seeing these first 2 games, you might be seeing Seattle coming back ever since Super Bowl 40.
Kind of touching on what Cam said about the Seahawks. I believe the Broncos are the best team, but with what they said, the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson is 9-0, 9-0 at home. I mean, that 12th man obviously is a huge boost, confidence for him, and I mean he plays well on the road as well. Like Dave said, his team only has given up 10 points, and while they didn't play that well in the first game against the Carolina Panthers, he did have the game-winning touchdown drive to win that game as well. So, I mean, the Seattle Seahawks are definitely a good team. They're definitely one of the best teams in the league. But, I wouldn't say these next two teams I'm going to say are the best teams in the league, but I think they're kind of like, dark horses right now. The Miami Dolphins are 2-0. Mike Wallace is out there now. He complained in the first game about how he wasn't getting any touches or he was frustrated with himself. This game he comes out and has 2 touchdowns. One touchdown on like a 40-yard catch, and then the other one was he got stopped at the 1. So I believe the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs, rejuvenated. With Andy Reid coming from the Eagles this past year after getting fired, so. I believe the Kansas City Chiefs, and they have a big game, a big showdown on Thursday. Andy Reid coming back to Philadelphia, for the first time since being let go. So, hey, Kansas City Chiefs could end up 3-0 after Thursday night. I wouldn't say, my prediction is that they lose that game, but I'm a little biased. But I will say that Andy Reid has definitely made a change in Kansas City, and it's for the better.
I think. Given a few more weeks, we might be talking about a different team in the NFL, because the one thing I would like to point out with the Broncos is even though their defense has been playing well, they do have an absence of Von Miller, who has his 6-game suspension for his substance abuse policy, and Champ Bailey's been out with a hurt ankle, so we may not be seeing the true Denver Bronco defense yet. So, I mean, if they can, be 5-1, 4-2 come week 6, when they get Von Miller back, whenever they get Champ Bailey back healthy, they might kind of reclaim the crown of the best team in the NFL. Just as of right now, their defense isn't producing enough for me to say that. I would much more ride with Seattle with that defense. And like you said, Green Bay, drafting Eddie Lacy, power runner. When they get down in that red zone, they finally have that double threat. That was what they were lacking last year, was not having a running attack. I don't care who your quarterback is. If you have no threat to run the ball, you're going to struggle. Mm-hmm. But now we're seeing Aaron Rodgers looking like the Aaron Rodgers of when they won the Super Bowl, because, they have this threat to run. Teams have to respect that, Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy's a great running back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they finally have to watch the running back, and it's opening doors for Aaron Rodgers to throw. I mean, Aaron Rodgers had, I think, over 300 yards passing and 4 touchdowns in the first half against Redskins on this past Sunday. And, I mean, he ended up with almost 400 yards passing, and, they just took it to the Redskins. So I think that's another team we're going to be hearing about come towards the end of the season.
Yeah, with the Denver Broncos, these first 2 games were the only 2 games that they didn't have Von Miller and they got an interception. So I just think with Von Miller back in there, it's going to be even a bigger presence. But as of now, after 2 weeks, it is the Seattle Seahawks. There's no doubt about it.
Well, the Denver Broncos, you guys are talking about their defense and not having Champ Bailey and Von Miller. But if I recall, the Denver Broncos had about 3 interceptions this past game. I wouldn't say their defense is lacking in any ways. I think by them coming, the 2 guys coming back, Champ Bailey and Von Miller, by them coming back, it's only going to enhance the defense. And, if I recall, actually, watching the game, there were times where players were getting hit. Not getting hit on defense. The defensive players were, if the guys were going in the air, they were punishing them. They were flying all over the field, much like the Seattle Seahawks. So I can't really say that Denver Broncos are lacking on defense at all. Okay, yes, they gave up 20 points more than the Seattle Seahawks, but I can't say they're lacking on defense, because they're doing a great job. Having 3 interceptions last week, rushing Eli Manning, and winning the Manning Bowl.
With 2 weeks left in the MLB season, there have been some rookies who have put up some impressive numbers. Who do you feel deserve the AL and NL Rookie of the Year awards? Dave?
Well, in the NL, even though people want to say it's the high-flying man, Bear Puig in L.A., Yasiel Puig, I don't think it's no comparison to what Jose Fernandez has done as the starting ace for the Miami Marlins. That may not sound like a great title, the ace of the Marlins, but as a rookie, when you're putting up a whip of under 1.98 and striking out over 160 and walking 50, and your 28 starts and 160 innings pitched, those are some unreal numbers for any pitcher, especially at that age. It's good that the Marlins shut him down on September 11th because they don't want him to, maybe because his arm's not expanded enough. People always think if you're younger, you can throw more. No. If you're younger, your arm hasn't experienced going through that much pain through an entire year. And another thing, Jose Fernandez, in his last at-bat of the season, cracked a solo shot over left field and just looked at it in amazement because that shot was a beauty. I don't know what the distance was, but it looked like it was over 400 feet. In the AL, I'm going to have to give it to Jose Iglesias, even having an awful July, hitting 205 in July. Came back to the Tigers, resurging again, hitting almost 300 for the year now, I believe, and making probably the best play of the year in my mind in the infield after it hit off the pitcher, making the play of the year on defense as well. I don't know his defensive numbers that well, but he looks like an overall great defender at the shortstop position, and that's what you need, a guy that can get on base on shortstop and get every ball in play at the shortstop position.
I'm going to have to agree with Dave in the AL there with Iglesias, but going back to the NL, Yasiel Puig and Fernandez, going back to them, I believe that Fernandez, like he said, his ERA is phenomenal, for a rookie, but they give the Cy Young Award for that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't give the the Rookie of the Year. That's like giving the MVP to a rookie. It's like giving the MVP to a pitcher. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of same kind of thing. So if I'm the voters, I'm going to give the award to Yasiel Puig because he's helping his team win. He's batting. He's a great outfielder. I have to give the award to Yasiel Puig for the NL MVP there. Rookie of the Year, sorry.
I tend to disagree with the statement about the Cy Young because you rarely see a rookie pitcher come out and have the kind of numbers where they're going to compete for a Cy Young. So, when you talk about Rookie of the Year, you kind of put all the rookies on a level playing field because there are so few usually that get enough playing time to compete for the title. So, I would go with Jose Fernandez for the NL because, not only with his, just over a 2 ERA, under 1 WHIP, over 160 strikeouts. His K9 is at least 9 Ks per 9 innings pitched. And then not only that, plays in the NL, batted over 200 average.
Mm-hmm.
That's
ridiculous.
That's a better average than Jason Giambi. That's a position player.
Maybe even Adam Dunn as well. He's a DH.
As a pitcher, the guy's, he's helping his own cause. That's one of the things where, Clayton Kershaw probably ended up being the NL Cy Young Award winner. The only reason he doesn't have a whole lot of wins is because he hasn't received a ton of run support. Jose Fernandez takes it into his own hands. He comes out, hits the ball, scores himself some runs. In the AL, I'd go with Will Myers from the Rays. They called Will Myers up. At the time of calling him up, they weren't really even in the playoff picture. They call him up. They go on this charge, kind of like Yasiel Puig with the Dodgers. But Will Myers kind of really took over, along with Evan Longoria, this Rays team, and kind of put him in a place to get into the playoffs, which I think is a much bigger factor, coming into with Rookie of the Year talks, where he sent his team on a long win streak and put him in place to make the playoffs. Almost batting 300. So I definitely have to go with Will Myers for the AL and Jose Fernandez for the NL.
Like when they called up Will Myers, I think that was just a coincidence because of how great the pitching was at that time. David Price was on his A game every start. To have one batter in about 70 batters go 3-0, that was only one batter happened, and only 4 of those walks happened in those 70 batters in about those 4 to 5 starts. David Price was unreal. And Chris Archer had that 2-hit shutout against the Yankees, and he was on his A game as well. Will Myers did contribute a lot to the offense, but I give more of that to the pitching and not really as much to Will Myers. So he's still ranked, I believe, number 1 in the AL for Rookie of the Year. I still think Iglesias has better defensive numbers, and overall at his position is putting up a better, maybe even a better WAR. I'm not sure to look at those numbers. And to also comment about your Cy Young award, it's just how Cameron said, put the rookies on a level playing field, and it's fine because Jose Fernandez has started 28 games, 12-6. 10 of those were no decisions, where the Marlins could have been winning or could have been losing. It could have been lopsided. Win-losses don't matter for a pitcher, but to have a winning record and to have about 1/5 of the wins for a team as a rookie, as a 21-year-old, I think that just says it all. Yasiel Puig had a monster June. I can't think of any other players in the modern era that's done what he's done. But he's been getting hurt, and his numbers have been dropping. He's not staying consistent. And that's what you harked on earlier. Yasiel Puig has not been consistent how he went in. It's hard to do that, to go 4 or 10 for your life, but I believe this award goes to Jose, hands down.
Yes, I agree. I agree. The NL MVP or Rookie of the Year should definitely go to Fernandez. He's doing a phenomenal job as a pitcher. At the same time, I will say, I will go back to the inconsistencies of Puig. That's definitely something he has to work on, being more consistent. But at the same time, speaking of the Yankees, you did speak of the Yankees. The Yankees are, on the rise. They're coming back. It's kind of odd, to see them out of the playoffs, but it's out of the playoff picture. But it's possible they can get back into it. Coming up in the standings right now. I believe they're 2 games back, 1 or 2 games back of the AL wild card. So it's interesting to see if they'll catch up. I'm looking at Rivera and the closer, and I feel like with him closing, he's definitely going to help them get back if they can just score enough runs.
Yeah, to finish off, like we said, Jose Fernandez, consistent numbers. Every time he was out on the mound, you knew the Marlins were going to have a shot to win. Yasiel Puig, fantastic numbers through June. Like we said, inconsistency. Out in the field, misses cutoff guys. He's just a little wild and reckless. He swings at about the highest percentage of first pitches in anybody in the league by like 30%. So, he's a little too out of control at times. Hence why Mattingly pulled him in the 5th inning in the one game to put in Skip Schumacher because, he just felt that, Puig was a little out of control, kind of needed to take a step back, calm down a little bit. You like to have that intensity, but you need controlled intensity. And that's what Jose Fernandez brings out onto the mound each and every start. He's intense, he's consistent, and he brings it. And like you said about Jose Iglesias, definitely think Jose Iglesias is more consistent defender, better defender at his position. I just think Will Myers has just come out and done a lot more with his bat for the Rays. Produced another big bat for them to get some runs in, help them win a bunch of games. But I think both leagues are going to be tight Rookie of the Year races, and I'm just interested to see who wins them.
Yeah.
Okay, now for our final topic of the night. With the Major League Baseball season almost complete, teams like the Dodgers and the Red Sox have already wrapped up their divisions. Who do you guys think will be playing for the World Series title come October, and who wins? Cameron?
It's a tough one because you look at teams like the Red Sox, who best record in baseball. They're ranked first in batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, second in runs. It's hard to go against that, but I definitely think the Red Sox are going to make a push. They might get some competition with the Detroit Tigers. Detroit Tigers are going to have to kick it into gear when they get into the playoffs. But I definitely see the Red Sox representing the American League in the World Series. I think the NL is going to be a much tighter race. Like we see with the NL Central race here to finish out the season. You've got Pittsburgh, you've got St. Louis. People look at the Dodgers and they think, they might be heads and toes above everybody else. But I think once you get them in a 5-game series or a 7-game series, it's going to change it up a little bit. So, I could see the Pirates maybe giving them a push. And I really see the Pirates maybe getting to the World Series. So I'm going to go with the Red Sox-Pirates World Series.
I would love to see a repeat of 110 years ago from the first World Series, Pirates and Red Sox winning the series. But you look at the AL, the Red Sox have dominated overall. They've been at the top of their game since April and have not dipped down since. The Pirates had that 1-5 start and it came back since and ended the month at 14-10. So overall, I think in the AL, I want to say the Red Sox, but then I want to say the Athletics as well, because the Athletics, you're saying experience will get you into the World Series. They had their experience last year going 5 games against the Tigers, going up of what was the best pitcher last year, Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander's not the best pitcher right now. Max Scherzer, maybe, still on the same team, as well as Anibal Sanchez as well, whose response to everyone in a text message is K. So overall, I think the Athletics can make a run for the World Series this year, and I think they will. It'll be interesting who they play in the first round, though. If they go against the Red Sox, no. But right now, I'm just going to stick with the Athletics. It's going to be weird. I don't remember the last time the Athletics have been to a World Series, but it'd be nice to see. On the other hand, there's really no experience in the playoffs with these teams except for the Cardinals. The Braves with Freddie Gonzalez haven't been to the playoffs. I don't consider the wild card round to be a playoff because it's not a series. It's a game. It's like a do or die game. It's their 163rd game of the year. So the Atlanta Braves have no experience. The Dodgers with Don Mattingly don't have any experience. Mattingly was going to get fired until Yasiel Puig and company decided to go 40-10. The Reds have been a little shaky. They had 2 games up on the Giants and lost 3 in a row to the Giants at home, and they haven't had a win at home in the playoffs since 1990 when they won the World Series. And then you look at the Pirates, who haven't had a winning season in 20 years. This is wide open in the NL. And my bias is saying pick the Pirates. Wholeheartedly, my bias is saying pick the Pirates. But overall, I think the Braves can put it away. The Braves up and down have monster power in their lineup, especially if they have Evan Gattis in the lineup and have Justin Upton in center and Jason Hayward in right. Because with B.J. Upton, you have no power, you have speed. But you already have that with Andrelton Simmons on base, and that's really the only speed that they have. Because they're all power in their lineup. Brian McCann, Freddie Freeman, Dan Uggla, you name it, they'll probably have 15 home runs plus on their team. They're pitching Julio Teheran, great rookie, another Rookie of the Year candidate, not as good as Fernandez. Tim Hudson going down, so Chris Medlin being the ace of the staff right now, trying to stick hold with him. So I think it might be a Braves and Athletics series, but I want to see a Red Sox-Pirates series.
I'll start with the NL, but I mean, personally, I don't see it being the Pirates or anything like that ever, or in this year per se. But I agree with him with the Atlanta Braves. I feel like they do have a lot of power in their with hitting. But I'm gonna go with the Dodgers. I'm going to go with the Dodgers or the Cardinals, to win the NL because, like he said, they do have a lot of experience. The Dodgers don't have as much experience, but the Cardinals do have more experience, and I believe that their experience will prevail against the Dodgers in the NLCS. And those are my picks for the NLCS, by the way, as well. But and back in the AL, I'm gonna have to go with. Well, honestly, I feel as though if the Yankees do make the playoffs, I think a lot of teams are going to be in fear because we talk about experience. I mean, I know Derek Jeter's out for the remainder of the year, but A-Rod, and all the different supporting cast they have hitting the ball and everything. There's no way, that teams are going to welcome, a first round matchup with the Yankees. There's no way. I mean, if I was a baseball player, I would not want to see A-Rod, or any team, or not any team, or the Yankees playing against my team when we're supposed to be the favorites. That's more pressure. You know what I mean? Pressure busts pipes. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that. that if the Yankees make the playoffs, that the Red Sox or the A's or any other teams like that are going to make the World Series. Because if the Yankees make the playoffs, and mark my word, you heard it here first, the Yankees will make the World Series. And there may be a bold pick. But because they're not even in it right now. But if they do make the playoffs and they make that wild card, it kind of goes back to and I'm gonna relate to NFL. With the New York Giants. The New York Giants came in the first year they won a Super Bowl against the Patriots when they had that phenomenal year where they didn't lose a game. The Giants were the 6th seed. Almost no 6th seed had ever won an NFL championship or a Super Bowl until the Giants did it as a 6th seed. So it's not that it can't be done. I don't know how often it's done in the MLB. Where the wild card team wins the World Series, if ever. But if the Yankees make the playoffs as the wild card, look out.
Well, A, Yankees aren't going to make the playoffs. Yankees suck. B, because the Indians are going to take the other wild card because they're coming. They're coming for everyone in the AL. But, anyways, the Red Sox, the other point I want to make is, like I said before, you look at their offense, how great it is, but you also look at their pitching. Clay Buchholz, back off of injury. If Buchholz hadn't gotten injured, we wouldn't be saying that Max Scherzer has the Cy Young locked up.
Exactly.
Clay Buchholz You take out his injury time, in all his starts so far, 11-0. 11-0 in his starts. And he was pitching amazing when he got hurt, and since he's come back, he's been pitching amazing. So, I mean, when you get into the playoffs, you don't have that 5-man rotation anymore. If you could go through a season with a 3-man rotation, you'd see teams with 130, 140 wins, because that's when teams beat them, is when they get a game against their number 4 starter, their number 5 starter, and it's not ace versus ace. You get someone like Clayton Kershaw pitching against somebody's number 4 starter. I mean, who's going to win that game. But you go into the playoffs, and you have Lester, Buchholz, 2 out of your 3 starting rotation for your 3-man rotation. They're going to definitely take those 2 games every time. So, I mean, I see them running through the American League, getting to the World Series, and kind of the same thing with the NL. That's why I don't see Atlanta really doing much, because I think that's where they're weak, is their rotation.
Yep.
They do have a good offense, but comparatively to the Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw, Josh Beckett, Zach Greinke, that's a great 3-man rotation. Might not have as high-powered of an offense, but they have a good enough offense. And then the Pirates, young pitchers, Garrett Cole, you got A.J. Burnett with that veteran presence in there, Francisco Liriano. You've got power, you've got average, you've got speed, you got base stealers. I just think the Pirates have enough of an all-around offense to get all the way. And I think, like you said, I think it actually is going to be a repeat of 110 years ago, Red Sox Pirates, and I do think the Red Sox are going to win. I just think they have that edge offensively and pitching, a little more experience, and I think they're going to take it.
A couple things. The Yankees won't make the playoffs. CC's not how he used to be. CC should be the best pitcher on this squad, and he's not. No. And there's no experience on this team anymore. The only experience is A-Rod and Alfonso Soriano.
Yeah, all their
Soriano's
experience is
been
injured.
in Chicago since 2004. And another thing, Steelers won as a 6th seed in 2005, 2006 season against the Seahawks before the Giants did.
This is true.
I'm going to go bold here. If the Pirates can take 4 out of 6 in their next 6 games against the Reds, Nationals are going to make that number 2 wild card spot, because they are the hottest team in the NL right now, and no one's paying attention to them because they're slowly creeping up in the standings. I believe 4 games back of the Reds right now for that wild card spot. The Nationals can still make the playoffs, and Steven Strasburg will be there for the playoffs if they make it as well. So in that one wild card game, Nationals could make it if they put Strasburg on the mound. And I want to say, I maybe want to retract my statement about the Braves, but I'm going to put the Pirates in there, not because of my bias, and I'll say why. Liriano's the best ace. We've only seen 2 bad starts from him all year. They just happened to come in August and this past 2 weeks ago. A.J. Burnett, you can't say he doesn't get run support. He has some crooked innings. Take away the crooked innings, he's the best pitcher in majors. You can do that with a lot of pitchers. And Garrett Cole, young guy on the mound, and also best bullpen in the league.
I'm gonna stick with my picks. I mean, I know I didn't pick the Yankees to, make the playoffs. I mean, make the World Series unless they make the playoffs. So I'm gonna say that if the Yankees don't make the playoffs, I'll pick the Red Sox to make the Red Sox or the Detroit Tigers to make the World Series and go up against, like I said before, either the Cardinals or the Dodgers, who are my NLCS picks.
Pirates winning it.
All right, and the point standings at the end of the game. Kenny finished in 3rd place with 32 points. Big Dave finishing in 2nd with 36 points. And Cameron is our winner today with 37 points. So you're going to get the 30 seconds of FaceTime, Cameron.
All right. I want to say Mike Trout for MVP. All you Miguel Cabrera people, look at the numbers. Mike Trout's a better all-around player, does more for his team. Mike Trout for MVP. And I do have to say, Cleveland Indians, half game back in the AL wild card. They're coming for the Texas Rangers and Tampa Bay Rays. Anything can happen when they get in the playoffs. It's on.
You got 8 more seconds.
I'm good.
All right.
I can take up those 8 seconds saying Miguel Cabrera is still better than Mike Trout.
Trout for MVP.
All right, well, that's our show for Big Dave Miller, Cameron Collins, Kenny Moore. I'm Ryan Noblet, and we'll catch you next time here on Rock Sports Showdown.